So in my mind, that was a very valuable formula. It was just that one piece, the potential nitrogen released over a night.
Sure, Smiley.
Hey, what's up, Smiley? So reel it forward to this year. When Kyle and I were having that conversation, I started saying, all right, I got to go back in my records and find, what that looked like. The Earth Fort versus present day Soil Food Web consultants, because it's different testing methodology. At Earth Fort, they take the sample as soon as it comes in, they freeze it, they stop it in time. Okay. And when they're ready to look at it, they warm it up, they feed it foods, so they give it the potential, the best potential environment that could happen. And that's important to understand, because when you have cysts, they don't show up on the Soil Food Report as a cyst. Mm-hmm. So if you don't unlock that, you don't know what the potential could be. If you watered it right, it got the right amount of sun, etc. So I totally understand the methodology and understand that tool was so important to bring forth to the world at that point in time. Yeah. Could you reel it back and take another approach where maybe you don't freeze it, but you look at it right away? I mean, the new protocols they have basically, I think it's 5 days they're supposed to look at the samples within. And Elaine has, to her credit, has done a lot of work since the Earth Fort days in trying to move this testing methodology along to better gain access to this information. So if you understand that the difference between these two testing methodologies, but you take some of the best of both, in other words, that original formula of how many protozoa you have to the potential nitrogen release, and you fast forward it to today's time frame, and you look at, okay, when I look under the microscope, I'm not looking at potential. I'm not looking at cysts. None of the cysts have been awoken. They're all in a cyst form. So I'm not going to count them, right? So now you say, well, I found these live. So they are not potential. They're there, all right?
Right.
So if I apply the old formula to the new methodologies, I would get a solid answer as to what I can expect to be released over 9 day period. So I poured back through Kyle's records. I poured back through my early Earth Fort tests, and started to correlate a relationship between their methodology, or what it showed at Protozoa on their report, to how they calculated the pounds per acre of nitrogen release. And then I fast forward, I applied it to Kyle's stuff, and I said, Kyle, I'm going to send you these reports because I think this shows us beyond a shadow of a doubt, if we can deliver and get to that 80,000 protozoa per unigram, that we will get this release based on last year's test. I mean, that was hard data. We know that was real. And so he got excited again. And that's when we really started diving down this new delivery methodology. But now I understand about how he sets the depth based on the moisture that's there, and how that's worked for them for eons. That's what they've done. Mm-hmm. We didn't have that conversation before that. So anyway, he had one field that hit it out of the park, but his main acres were horribly ineffective, and in the end, he lost some money. So he's not in a great place. He's not really ready to come forward with the data. Now, I encouraged him to say, hey, let's just look at that one small field, and let's look at the data on that. How much did you pay for the fish brew and anything else you added to that small plot? And let's do the numbers on that and approach it that way. But he really wasn't comfortable in doing that, and I can understand it's skewing the data. Yeah. But as long as you're upfront about it, right, it shouldn't be an issue. But again, I'm going to let Kyle do Kyle, and if he's uncomfortable talking about it, that's fine. Because I know now that if we do deliver properly and we show the test results through Andy, then we know confidently we're going to be all set. And he still has the option to apply something else if he needs to, and he gets uncomfortable during the process. So Kyle's on basically a gap year.
A reset.
Yeah, he's on a reset. But I mean, we learned a lot. I mean, any farmer in the future that does go this methodology, we just saved them years of freaking trial and error, right? Yeah. Talk about an asset. And, hopefully he does get some recognition for all of the time, money, and energy that he's put into trying to understand how to properly and responsibly deliver biology on large acres of land. Because if he can do it for a few hundred acres, 500 acres, bam. Now you look at these 10,000 acre farms, 100,000 acre farms, they can just jump in and follow that protocol, and they're good to go. So,
well, and that's the thing, is setting up the SOPs, and you're not understanding the farm mentality, and what they were doing was a major disconnect. Now that you do, it's much easier to move forward from there.
Yeah, and move forward with a little bit more confidence, right? I mean, he and I both lacked confidence until we unraveled that understanding, that relationship of how critical the protozoas are. I mean, you hear me talking about nutrient cycling all the time, and how critical it is, but there's still a little bit of a disconnect when you don't understand farming SOPs versus, me delivering compost extract to an existing landscape. Big difference. Bare field versus field with plants, or landscape with plants. It's a lot more challenging. So lesson learned, and kudos to him for pulling us up by the bootstraps and jumping back on the horse and getting ready to charge in spring. Like, I've been having conversations with him all morning, and almost every other day for the last month, trying to iron, or actually probably more than a month, probably a couple of months anyway, trying to unlock all these keys. So I would expect him to be a year from now, he'll be on, and we'll probably have some really amazing data, because now we've both got old data, inappropriate data, and appropriate data. So that one is to be continued.